Hi guys, this is Jeff here again with JAG Development, and today we're going to talk about replacing a center cartridge of a Moen valve that is obviously leaking. There's a few tools that you're going to need. You're going to need a screwdriver. You're going to need to figure out beforehand the actual cartridge of what you're going to need to be replacing, and you're going to need an Allen wrench or whatever type of set screw is set underneath there. So I'm going to explain this step-by-step process. We are going to remove the handle first. There's a set screw underneath there. We're going to remove the beauty plate behind that. There's two Phillips screwdrivers, screw heads holding that in. And then there is the cartridge, which is held in place by I'll show it to you. And before we do all of that, we have to turn the water off. This is not like your sink or your bathrooms where they have an on and off valve. This is directly to the main, so you got to go down and find your main turn off valve, turn it off, or find it at the street. Either way, we still got to turn it off. So let's dive into this. So guys, we found the water main. It's in the garage. There's two valves here. You want to find the one with the bigger pipe. This is a pressure regulator valve. This is probably going to their irrigation system, so if we just turn this off, it's not going to turn off the whole system. So we're going to just turn it like that. And it's that simple. The water is off. So guys, we have already turned off the water main. The best thing to do is just turn this faucet on. Let all the water drain while we still have this handle attached. Now that there's no more water coming out of the system, you can flip the handle up right so you can see what you're doing. Unscrew the screw all the way and pull it off. So the handle's off now. What we're going to do is remove two screws here, but first we're going to remove this one. Just back it all the way out. Don't let it fall down the drain. That's always a helpful tip. Now, we got the beauty plate exposed. We're going to take this thing completely off and expose the valve behind it. A lot of times you're going to need to run a razor blade around this edge neatly. Be careful so you don't scratch the finished surfaces. These screws are long. I always recommend doing it by hand because that way you don't hurt them. Alright, now remove the screws, set them aside. At this point you should be able to pop this beauty cover off. Just slide it off like that. You turn it around, there's a foam waterproof protection in this. You don't want to hurt that. Just set that aside. Now this chrome piece, this usually slides off. It's a decorative piece, it's slotted, so it's always, you can only put it on one way, so don't worry about that. Now we are exposed the valve. These valves really haven't changed over the years. They're all pretty much similar. If you don't want to have to rip out your entire wall system to fix a leak or something like that, pretty much every center cartridge that has ever been made is still available. You could find it. So this is what we're going to do. This is a Moen, it's not very old. The reason why this one was leaking is hard water. We have hard water here in the valley, and it's just built up and it's caused a leak. So we're just going to replace it. So if you look real closely right here, there's going to be a little clip. You just gently pop it up, pull it out. Looks just like that. It's pretty easy to do when there's no water on because there's no pressure against it. When the water is on, that's kind of hard to take off because there's, 60 psi of pressure right there holding that in. So then all we do is just kind of gently pull this out. There's a couple O-rings in there that makes it a little challenging, but once it starts going, it comes right out. There it is. So, it looks new, it's not very old, however, it's just been leaking, it won't turn off. Here is the new one. Make sure you match them up. So the same distance, same height. These are the exact same things. So we're good to go on this. Another helpful tip is right at the top, it says H and C. Hot, cold. Hot is always on your left, cold is always on your right. Whether you're underneath the sink, if you need to turn your hot water off, always turn the valve on the left off. Cold is always on your right. So you just take this, make sure there's nothing in there causing any sharp burrs. It feels pretty smooth. Nothing in there is going to cut you or anything else. You can do this. You're just feeling around to make sure that the reason why this was leaking is just because of this, not something like sharp in there that got in there and is preventing that seal from sealing. So I think we're good to go. I'm going to slide this right in, get it started, and then we'll just slide right in, all the way in. And then reverse the process. We slide this clip right down, just like that. It's that simple. And we put this right back together, the opposite way you took it apart. This slides on, perfect. Now, just make sure that the foam is still intact. A lot of times if you had a bead of silicone around this, you want to clean this up now before you put it back on. It makes it a lot easier because you can just run your fingernail off it, make it clean. Once you put it on there, it's kind of hard to get to that tight edges. So we just slide that on. All right, now we're back to dealing with these long screws. I'm gonna find it. If it does that, that means you didn't find the spot it goes. Right there. There we go. What I like to do is, just for a helpful tip, get this started, run it in a little ways, don't tighten it all the way up, and then get the other one started. Gives you a little flexibility to move that plate around like that to line that screw in. And you just run them all the way in. Now this happens to be a pretty hard surface. It's a 1/2 inch quartz material. Sometimes you're dealing with fiberglass, so there's a little bit more flex in your wall. So you can really, you don't want to over tighten these things. You want to get it snug, but you can over tighten them and cause some damage. So we're just going to snug them up. Everything feels pretty good. Normally when you snug one in, you kind of got to go back and do like a 1/2 turn or turn it in 1/2 on that side. And we're good. Like I said, that keyway kind of determines everything. It's pretty simple. It lines everything up. That's that. Tighten this one up, but kind of take your other hand, if you're right-handed, take your left hand, hold this. You are dealing with plastic here, guys. You want this pretty snug so that the handle feels pretty snug when you're done with it. But you don't want to put a lot of torque in this because you're dealing with plastic. If you put a lot of torque in it, you can bend it, break it, and then we're dealing with replacing more parts we don't need to. So just kind of hold that right there, get a little snug, we're good to go. Reverse this, go upside down, slide this on. All right, we're good to go. Now we're gonna run down and turn the water on. So guys, the water's back on, and look at that. We don't have any leaks. So you just turn it on, and you turn it off. Imagine that. It actually turns all the way off. So last final step, before I wanted to silicone this edge, I wanted to make sure that what we did actually worked, so I'm not having to tear apart more work. So now you just take some bath rated wet. I use damp a lot, Kiwi Seal. We're going to use white, and we're just going to run this real thin layer down there. So any water that comes down the wall, it just shields off of this, and we're not worried about that. So This is how I do it. I like to take my finger, just go right around it. Clean that all up. I like to use like a paper towel if you have a microfiber cloth. That works just as great. You're just gonna go right around this and get that nice and clean. There we go. Look at how that cleans up. All you want to do is just put a light bead in there, nothing huge. You just want to keep the water from behind that wall and inside the bathtub. And that's it. So just don't use this shower for, this client's not going to be home for 6-8 hours. They're probably not going to take a shower tonight. They'll be good to go. This needs 24 hours to set up so it's perfect. And that's how you do it. That's how you save, I don't know, quite a few $100s on a service call on a plumber coming out and versus you just doing it. Took us 5 minutes. Have a great day.